Hi guys, the state of English water is probably the best example of how the Tories have destroyed pretty much everything they've come in contact with. 14 years of rule where water companies have been allowed, and helped in some cases, to pump raw sewage into waterways. Where people involved in sports are either advised to cancel their events due to the poor quality at beaches, or where they end up in hospital due to the effects of contaminated water. Last week, an English water company began advising the public to boil water before consumption and couldn't give an end date for that course of action. DEFRA secretary after DEFRA secretary has been, of course, piling the blame on everyone else and called for the profit-making companies to be handed more taxpayer money to upgrade systems they have abandoned while seeking to satisfy their shareholders. Here, Labour MP Emma Hardy delivered a powerful speech attacking Tory rot.
Another day and another example of the depths of failure that this government have taken us. I cannot believe that I am about to say this, but after 14 long years of Conservative rule, in 21st century Britain, our water is no longer safe to drink. The government will, of course, be flailing around, desperate to clasp on to somebody else to blame. But this crisis is theirs. It's this government that must show some leadership and take responsibility for it. They were the ones who weakened regulation, leaving our Victoria-era sewage system starved of investment. They turned a blind eye and left water companies to illegally pump a tidal wave of raw sewage into our rivers, lakes and seas. Mr. Speaker, only last month the Labour Party warned that our nation's health is at risk because hospital admissions for waterborne diseases have skyrocketed by 2/3 since 2020. Is this an example of their plan working? Is this what they think success looks like? And now this, the icing on the cake of failure. A parasite outbreak in Brixham with South West Water. 16,000 homes and businesses have been advised to boil water before drinking it. Over 46 cases of cryptosporiosis have been reported. More than 100 people reported symptoms, and Mr. Speaker, a 13-year-old boy has been admitted to hospital. This is appalling. Enough is enough. So today we are calling on the government to urgently adopt Labour's plan to put the water companies under special measures to clean up their water. As a matter of utmost urgency, the government must strengthen regulation so law-breaking bosses face criminal charges, and go further to give the regulator new powers to block the payment of bonuses until water bosses have cleaned up their filth. With Labour, the polluter, not the public, will pay. So I have one question for the Secretary of State. Contaminated water hospitalising children, record levels of toxic filth in our water systems. How much worse does it have to get before the government adopt Labour's plan to put the water industry under special measures?
Okay, well, the minister responded by blaming everyone else, blaming farmers, actually, saying, well, you know, it's actually down to runoffs from fields or something like that. Now, I want to focus more on the point here that she raised here about how there needs to be regulation, there needs to be stronger measures against the companies, there needs to be punishment. If we look at England, the water quality is terrible, but it doesn't seem to be the case in Wales and in Scotland. Now, why is that? Well, in Wales, the water companies are private, but they're highly regulated by the Welsh government, while in Scotland, Scottish water is owned by the public, so it's not privately owned. So if it's state-owned, if it's publicly owned, you're not going to have these types of problems because it's not profit-driven. And when it is profit-driven, it has to be highly regulated. So in Wales, you either choose the Welsh model or the Scottish model, and then you have better quality outcomes for water. This is a resource that needs to be protected. How is it possible that private companies are not engaging in their responsibilities to upgrade the facilities, upgrade the infrastructure, and instead allowed to funnel more and more money into the pockets of their shareholders, creating a massive amount of debt and not actually upgrading the system, and just allowing raw sewage and other contaminants to be pumped right into waterways. As we saw, sports have to be cancelled because sports people are not able to use the waterways. People are ending up in hospital because they're consuming contaminated water. And then you have the companies turning around and saying, oh, look, boil your water for an indefinite period. This has to end. Now, what Labour are talking about is punishing the water companies. This is the first step, but it has to be, the end game here has to be nationalisation. There has to be an ending of the privatisation of water. As I said, this is a resource that's fundamental to society. It shouldn't be in the hands of private companies, and especially private companies whose primary goal of being profit is overriding the national good. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.